Hey everyone, so here's the solutions for your rational equations part 2 worksheet in preparation for your quiz tomorrow. So for number 1 through 4, all we're doing is simplifying the expression. I believe we did this one in class today. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get rid of these x's on the bottom. We don't like those, trying to make it a little bit prettier. So for here, if both denominators are x, then your common denominator is just also going to be x. So basically what we're doing is we're multiplying the whole top by x and then the whole bottom by x. And you guys, if you think about it, you're just multiplying this by x over x, which is just equal to 1. So by multiplying by x, you're not changing what the expression is because you're really just multiplying by 1, right? So the way that I did it in class, instead of showing it this way, I just went times x times x times x times x. And that's just literally distributing those x's. So here's what we end up getting. So here we get 4 times x is just 4x. These guys cancel out and you're just left with a plus 1. And then all over 3 times x is 3x. These guys cancel out and you're left with a plus 2. And that's it. Okay, number 2, I believe we did this one in class as well. The only denominator that I see here is this x squared. So that is going to end up being my common denominator. So I'm going to multiply every single term by x squared. So I'm going to multiply this by x squared, this by x squared, and this by x squared. Okay, and what do we end up getting? On the top, we have 1 times x squared is x squared. On the bottom, we have 2 times x squared is 2x squared. And then minus, these guys cancel out, and you're left with a 5. Okay? All right, let's look at number 3. All right, what's the only denominator that I see? I only see a 4. So that is going to be my common denominator. So I'm going to multiply everything by 4. I'm going to multiply this by 4, this by 4, this by 4, and this by 4. So these will cancel out, leaving me with an x minus 1 times 4 is 4. All over x times 4 is 4x, and then minus 4 times 4 is 16. Now, you guys, kind of a cute little problem. This one can be fixed up just a little tiny bit more. If you notice the bottom part factors, so if I factor out a 4, I'm left with an x minus 4, and then your common factors cancel, so the answer really is 1/4. Just kind of look for that. Like every time you get an answer, just ask yourself, can I factor something and cancel? But remember, do not cancel something unless you can factor it, okay? It has to be factorable first. All right, and then let's look at crazy number 4. So the only 2 denominators I see here are the x and the y. So my common denominator is going to be xy. Remember, if you don't know how to find a common denominator, just multiply them together. It always works. Okay, so I'm going to multiply everything by xy. This by xy, this by xy. I'm going to multiply this by xy and this by xy. Okay, so in the very first part, the x's are going to cancel out, leaving us with a 1 and a y, so this is going to be y. Here, the y's are going to cancel out, leaving us with a 1 and an x, so it's just x. Then on the bottom, let's write this out a little bit. This is x times xy. So combining these two together, that's going to get you x squared y. So we're going to have x squared y. And similarly, if you multiply that together, you're going to get y squared x. It does not matter what order you put it in. Okay? Does anything factor out here? Let's see, I can pull out an xy. Let's see what happens if I factor the bottom. I don't know. So you have y plus x. Okay, out of both of these guys, I can pull out 1x and 1y, leaving me with an x plus y. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even catch that. Okay, so on this one, you can cancel out these factors. X plus y and y plus x is the same thing, leaving us with 1 over xy. All right, so that's just a simplification. Know how to do a simple simplify like this tomorrow for your quiz. Okay, now how do you apply that to solving equations? And I believe we did this one in class together. So you guys, the ugly thing about this whole equation is just this expression right here, okay? So I'm just going to focus on that, ignore the equals 1. So just pretend like number 5 is just like one of these where you're just simplifying really fast. So what's the only denominator that you see here? Well, I see this x, right? So my common denominator is just going to be that x. So I'm going to multiply everything on the left-hand side by the x. So this by x, this by x, and this by x, okay? Don't multiply the one on the right by x. I'm just pretending the one's not there, and I'm simplifying the left-hand side. So what I get here is 1 times x is x, minus these two cancel out, so it's going to be minus 1, all over, and 2x times x is 2x squared, and then now I'm going to write equals 1. Okay, so how do I solve this? Let's multiply both sides by 2x squared. Multiply by 2x squared. So that's going to get me, these cancel out. So you get x minus 1 equals 2x squared. Okay, and then remember, every time you have an x squared, you want to set it equal to 0 and try to factor. So if I subtract x and add 1, if I'm going to subtract x and add 1, that's going to give me a 0 on the left and a 2x squared minus x plus 1. And I believe when we did this one, it did not factor, right? We wanted two numbers, it's a big star here, that when I multiply them together, I get 2, and when I add them, I get negative 1. That's not going to work. So you have to use the quadratic formula. So gross, so here your a equals 2. Your b is negative 1, and your c is 1. So remember, the quadratic formula is x equals negative b. So the negative b, if I make that negative again, that's going to become positive. Plus or minus the square root of b squared. If I square negative 1, I'm going to get a 1. Minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. So fixing this up, you're going to get 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 minus 8, which is negative 7, all over 4. So you can either leave it like that, I would take that, or you could just say no real solution. No real solution. All right? So either one of these are totally fine. Okay. If we look at number 6, okay, so same idea. Let's take a look at just the left side, which is pretty gross. I'm ignoring the 2 for a second. Okay, and then I'm going to look at the only denominator that I see, which happens to be this x again. Okay, so since my common denominator here is an x, I'm going to multiply everything by x. So I'm going to multiply this by x, and this by x. So on the top here, remember, I'm just working on the left-hand side. I'm not touching the right. So 4 times x is 4x. All over, these cancel, and I'm going to get 3 minus 5x on the bottom equals 2. Okay, now just like the other problem, I'm going to multiply both sides by the denominator to get rid of it. 3 minus 5x, 3 minus 5x. Hang on, I feel like I did something funky on this. No, I didn't. Sorry. Sometimes I think things that I didn't really do. Okay, so what's going to cancel out here? So the bottom and the top cancel out, leaving us with a 4x on the left. And then if I go ahead and distribute this, that's going to be 6 minus 10x. Okay, if I add 10x to both sides, 4x plus 10x is 14x. And then if I divide both sides by 14, I'm going to get 6 over 14. And if we reduce that, that's going to be 3 over 7. All right, let's see what else we got. Number 7. Okay, these are your review questions, okay? So hopefully some of these were pretty easy. So what I see here is that I'm trying to, again, solve for this x, right? That's my whole goal. So I'm going to try to move everything away from the x as I possibly can. So the first thing I can move away is this plus 4. I don't want to do a highlighter. Let's try that again. I want to move away this plus 4 by subtracting 4 from both sides. So it's going to give me x plus 5 squared equals 8 minus 4 is 4, okay? Always ask yourself, what are you solving for? I'm solving for x, okay? So still, I'm solving for the x. I need to get rid of everything around it. So the next thing I would like to get rid of is this square. The way to get rid of a square, do the opposite. We're going to take the square root of both sides. Okay, these are going to end up canceling out, leaving us with x plus 5 equals, remember, when you take the square root of both sides, you want to make sure you pull out that plus or minus, and then the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, now subtract 5 from both sides, and you're going to get x equals negative 5 plus or minus 2. Now, you guys, this one came out kind of nice because there's actually 2 solutions here, right? Either x equals negative 5 plus 2 or x equals negative 5 minus 2. So if I solve those, negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3, and negative 5 minus 2 is negative 7. By the way, that noise you just heard is my dog Max. If he starts howling in a second, my apologies. I can't get him to stop. He's a hound. All right, number 8. Okay, what am I solving for here? I'm solving for x. So I need to move as many things away from x as possible. So the first thing that I kind of see is this 3 in front. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 3. It's going to cancel. So I have absolute value of 2 plus 4x equals 7. Okay. Next one, remember absolute value is just the distance from 0. So remember you have a distance to the right and a distance to the left. So you want to think of it that way. So you get a positive and a negative there, right? So this is going to turn into 2 equations here. Max, shh. So you're going to get 2 plus 4x equals 7. It's in the positive direction. Or 2 plus 4x equals negative 7. Max, sorry guys. All right, and solving these two equations, if I subtract 2 from both sides, I'm going to get 4x equals 5. If I divide by 4, I'm going to get x equals 5 over 4. On the other one, if I subtract 2 from both sides, I'm going to get 4x equals negative 9. If I divide both sides by 4, I'm going to get x equals negative 9 over 4. So there are your 2 answers for that one. All right, moving along. Question 9. Okay, I think this question is probably the most challenging question on your quiz tomorrow, something like this. Okay, so when you get all these denominators and you have an equation, okay, the first thing you need to do is try to factor whatever you can. So I see that this is factorable, so let's rewrite the whole equation. So I'm going to have 2 over x plus 3 minus 3 over x equals 4x over, and you guys notice I can pull an x out of here, leaving me with an x times x plus 3, like that. Okay, now you guys, I'm looking at this. I see something that I can do to make my life a little bit simpler, but we've never done it before, so I'm just going to not do it. Okay, but what I need to do next is find a common denominator. So you guys, looking at these denominators, I see that the x plus 3 repeats. So that is going to be part of my common denominator. Whatever repeats, just write it down one time. What else repeats? Let's look at the rest of the denominators. I also have an x that repeats, okay? So whatever repeats, write it down once, so times x. And the better way to write this would be x times x plus 3. That is your common denominator. And notice all the denominator parts have been taken up, so I'm good, okay? So what I'm going to do with this now is multiply every single term by this common denominator to clear those fractions out. So I'm going to multiply this by x times x plus 3, this times x plus 3, and then this time x plus 3. Now, this is where the magic happens, right? So the x plus 3's cancel out, leaving me with a 2 times x, or a 2x, minus the x's cancel out, leaving me with a 3 times x plus 3. I'm going to distribute that on the next step. And then this right here, you guys, all of it cancels out. Do you see that? Leaving you with just a 4x. All right, now it's just to solve. So I have 2x, distribute the negative 3. Watch that negative. You got to distribute that with it, right? So negative 3x, and then negative 3 times 3 is negative 9 equals 4x. Combining some like terms here, we have negative x minus 9 equals 4x. And then if I add x to both sides, I'm going to get negative 9 equals 5x. And then if I divide by 5, I'm going to get negative 9 over 5 equals x. Kind of an ugly answer, but right, we're in honors pre-calc now, so they're not going to be pretty. And you guys notice, just based off of this, after I factored everything, my excluded values are that x cannot equal negative 3 and 0. Because if they're either negative 3 or 0, your denominators are going to be 0. But that was not one of my answers, so I am good. I am doing great. I'm okay. All right, let's look at number 10. All right, remember on this one, if you have a fraction that equals a fraction, cross multiply. I hope you guys remember that. Remember the cross multiply thing? So I'm going to multiply this times this and this times this. So going this way right here, I get that 4 times 3 is going to equal, and then going this way, x times x plus 1. Okay, multiplying them out, I'm going to get 12 equals x squared plus x. That was just the distributing part here. And remember, every time you see an x squared, okay, you want to make sure you set it equal to 0 and then try to factor or do quadratic formula. So if I subtract 12 from both sides, I'm going to get 0 equals x squared plus x minus 12. Now, let's see if we can find two numbers that give us negative 12 when we multiply them and give us 1 when we add them. I believe that would be 4 and negative 3. So this factors to x plus 4 times x minus 3. And setting each of those factors equal to 0 will give us x equals negative 4 and x equals positive 3. Now, let's think about excluded values before we jump the gun and we're like, oh, we're done. Okay, the two denominators were x and 3. The 3 is good, but if an x is in the denominator, x cannot equal 0. That's your excluded value here. But you guys look, 0 was not one of the answers, so we're good to go. If it was, you just cross it out and go, it can't be that. Okay? All right, look, we're almost done. All right, number 11. Okay, let's see if we can factor this guy. Okay, remember it's an x squared. It's already equal to 0. That's lovely. Okay, let's see if it factors. So looking at this, it's going to be a big star. So I want 2 times 5, that's 10. And then the middle number is 7. Ooh, I like that. What two numbers multiply to give us 10 and add to give us 7? I believe that is 5 and a 2. Divide by your leading coefficient. And this reduces to 1. This does not reduce at all. So then this is going to factor to x plus 5 over 2 times x plus 1 equals 0. Setting them both equal to 0, you're going to get x equals negative 5 over 2 and x equals negative 1. And there are no excluded values on this one because the original problem didn't have any denominators. So whatever you get should work. All right, number 12. Okay, so just looking at this, I would say, hey, let's distribute. So that's going to be 6x minus 2x squared equals 3. Okay, I see an x squared. What do we do when we see an x squared? We set it equal to 0 and we try to factor, right? So I'm going to subtract that 3 over. So I have 6x minus 2x squared equals, nope, not equals. Let's try that again. Minus 3 equals 0. Now the problem is, you guys, I need to switch the order of these guys. It's not in descending order. So if I switch that order, I'm going to get negative 2x squared plus 6x minus 3 equals 0. Now, hey, there's something I don't like about this, okay? I don't like the fact that there's a negative number in front of the x squared. It kind of makes it hard to factor. So I am going to actually divide both sides of this equation by negative 1. And why am I allowed to do that? As long as I do it to both sides, it will not change the result. Now, dividing by negative 1 on the left-hand side is literally just going to change the signs on every single term. So we're going to have this, and 0 divided by anything is still 0. Now, is this factorable? Sadly, I want to say no. Okay, so let's check it out. 2 times 3 is 6, and then I have a negative 6 on the bottom. Can you think of two numbers that multiply to make 6 and add to give you negative 6? I can't. So bummer. I'm going to cross that out. What do? Can't factor? Quadratic formula it is. So this is going to be a equals 2. Then b equals negative 6. And c equals 3. And you guys, if you used a equals negative 2, b equals 6, and c equals negative 3, you should get the same answer. If you do not, we're in big trouble, okay? But you should get the same answer. So let's do it. So it's x equals negative b. So if I make this negative again, that's going to be positive 6 plus or minus the square root of b squared. If I do negative 6 squared, that's 36. Minus 4 times a is 2, c is 3. All over 2 times a. And let's simplify this, guys. So you get x equals 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus, and then this is 8 times 3, which is 24, all over 2 times 2 is 4. Keep going. You get 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 24 is 12, all over 4. And you guys, that's a really good answer, but you can simplify this more. Remember, you can break down square root of 12. 12 is really 4 times 3, right? And then we know that the square root of 4 is really 2. So I can rewrite this as x equals 6 plus or minus 2 rad 3 all over 4. That's the even better answer. But if you look at it, if you look at these three numbers here, 2 goes into all of those. So I'm going to go ahead and divide all those little guys by 2. And let's see what we end up getting. So I'm going to get x equals, so the first part, 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 divided by 2 is just 1, so I don't need to write that. And then on the bottom, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So there is the most simplified form of that answer. Okay, do more. Okay, number 13. Ooh, what do you see? I see fraction equals fraction. So when you see that, what should we think? The easiest way to do that one is to just cross multiply, okay? So I'm going to multiply these two. I'm going to multiply these two. All right, so it's going to be 5 times x plus 2 equals 3 times 2x plus 4. And then if I distribute this, sorry, I was going to look at something. Oh, yeah, I did do excluded values. Sometimes I forget them. Okay, if I distribute this, I'm going to get 5x plus 10 equals, if I distribute this, I'm going to get 6x plus 12. Okay, now let's solve for x. If we subtract 10 from both sides, we're going to get that 5x is 6x plus 2. If I subtract 6x from both sides, I'm going to get negative 1x equals 2. Max. And then if I divide by negative 1, I'm going to get x equals negative 2. Okay, now you guys, let's check this out. Like, is that even possible? Okay, can x equal negative 2? Let's look here. Can x equal negative 2? No, that is actually an excluded value. So if x equals negative 2 and x can't equal negative 2, what would the answer be here? It would be no solution. It's clever. Love it. Great problem, Mr. Borish. All right, and then number 14. Okay, you guys, again, see a crazy little equation here, set it equal to 0 and try to factor. That's like your whole goal with most of these, okay? So I'm going to move the 3x squared to the other side and get x to the 4th minus 3x squared equals 0. And then I'm going to factor. It looks like I can take out an x squared out of both of these, leaving me with an x squared minus 3 equals 0. And then setting each of these factors equal to 0, I'm going to get x squared equals 0, x squared minus 3 equals 0. If you take the square root of both sides, yeah, you're going to get a plus or minus 0, but that's still going to be 0, right? So that's one answer. And then on this one, if you add 3 to the other side, take the square root, you're going to get x is plus or minus radical 3. So your 3 solutions should be these guys. All right? All right, Max says hello. Have a good night, you guys. If you have any questions, please come see me at brunch or I'll help you in class, okay?